day one. Oh my god. I feel dumb. I feel really dumb trying to do this. Okay. I'm starting the artist's way today. I feel like I rediscovered the artist's way at like exactly the right time. I've been feeling really like aligned, which sounds bizarre to say out loud, but a couple weeks ago, maybe like the beginning of February, I decided that I was ready to start taking myself seriously, start taking my ideas seriously, start putting in actual planned effort into my business ideas. And shortly after that, I started watching Dochi's videos and I got a copy of The Artist's Way, and I've only been reading through the introductory material so far. Today's my first official day starting the program, but ever since I like reintroduced this idea of completing The Artist's Way, I've felt this overwhelming sense of peace, which has been really nice. So I'm hoping that that's a sign. I'm taking that as a sign that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with my time and my energy right now. I've wanted to start posting on YouTube, so it feels natural to try and like document my experience through this program on here. But right now, in the moment, this feels very strange. I used to be a lot more comfortable in front of the camera and like posting online. But the older I get, the less I feel like what I have to say is important. But I'm trying to get over that and move through it. So I'm gonna keep doing this. Yeah, so I think I mentioned today was my first day doing the program. I did my morning pages. I haven't yet read chapter 1. I'm gonna get to that today, hopefully. Is to do daily check-ins on here throughout the weeks, and then mush it all together into kind of like a weekly summary. I don't have many Artist's Way related thoughts right now because I am just starting, but I kind of wanted to get this introduction like recorded and out there so that I have motivation to finish the check-ins throughout the week and to get this video posted. I think that's all for now. I'll try to do a check-in later today when I finish the first chapter, but if I'm not able to do that, I'll check in tomorrow. Okay, today is day 2 of week 1 of The Artist's Way. I just got done with my morning pages. It is like 10, I don't know, probably close to 10:15 at this point. I did them late today because I slept in, and then I had to get my son to school, and then I had to take care of my youngest, and she's down for a nap now, so I had some time to myself. I'm feeling really doubtful, and I want to say overwhelmed by the prospect of completing this program. I've been thinking about it for like 2 weeks, and I was reading all the introductory material, and I was watching YouTube videos, Dochi's YouTube videos like I mentioned, but then other ones about, you know, The Artist's Way, and I've had TikTok videos come up about it, and so and there have been other sort of synchronicities that have kind of like confirmed like, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like this feels like the right time to try and do this program again. And then Sunday and yesterday, I was just so full of doubt. Like I like, how am I gonna fit this in? You know, like how am I, like realistically, how am I, a mother of 2 who works part-time and also has these businesses that I'm trying to get off the ground, like how am I gonna make time for this? There's the morning pages, there's the artist date, there's the essays and assignments and reading, while I'm also trying to do personal reading, and I rent all of my books from the library, so I'm on kind of like a timeline for them. And then you know, just all this stuff, all this doubt, all of this like preemptive, just like, I guess like preparing myself for failure, or like maybe cushioning the, I'm making excuses for myself, but it doesn't it doesn't seem necessarily like I'm like, oh, I can't do the artist's way because this, and this. Like, I'm not excusing myself from the program and like giving myself reasons to back out. It's like I'm cushioning the eventual blow of me failing, because that to me seems like an inevitable thing, right? So it's more like I'm trying to make myself feel better about the fact that I'm not going to be able to complete this, even though I want to and I want to try. And that isn't surprising because I do have a history of doing that. And yeah, I don't have a great track record when it comes to follow through. And it is hard for me to deal with too many commitments at once. And it feels like I have too many commitments right now, and most of them are self-implemented. It feels silly to be like, oh my gosh, I have so much going on, I'm so overwhelmed, but it's like I'm the one putting it on myself. But it all feels really important, and it all feels like it's supposed to be happening right now. I talked about that well, I don't think I'm supposed to talk about what I talked about in my morning pages, but anyway, it's been on my mind. It's been on my mind. But anyway, it all does feel like I'm supposed to be doing it right now. And so there's this like sense of urgency that's coming from somewhere. I don't know where. I did just turn 32. No, I did just turn 30. So that could also be coming into play somehow. Like I subconsciously feel like this is the age I need to get everything together. I don't know, but I still haven't read chapter 1. I'm trying so hard. I don't love the way that Julia writes, the author. Not that her and I are on a first name basis or anything, but anyway. I don't love the way that the book is written. There's so many, it's like a chunky smoothie, you know, and where it's good and it feels like it's nourishing you, but you keep having to like take the straw out and like suck the stuck fruit out of the bottom, or it's so thick in some parts that like the straw is like collapsing on itself. That's what it feels like trying to read this book. And I'm also reading it on my phone. I am getting a physical copy. Someone in one of the Buy Nothing groups that I'm in on Facebook, they are local. That's like a local group, and someone in there is gonna gift me a copy this weekend. So I think that'll help me kind of feel a bit more grounded in this whole process if I have like an actual copy to reference, to highlight, to take notes in, to keep my Artist's Way notebook company. I feel better having talked these feelings out, and I'm feeling hopeful that I will be able to make it all happen. Okay, it's technically day 4 of the week 1. I didn't do a lick of work yesterday. I didn't do my morning pages. I didn't do any reading, and I haven't done my morning pages yet today, but I have read a little bit of the first chapter. It's taking me so long to get through the text. I'm hoping once I have a physical copy, it'll be a little bit easier, but something about the formatting, the way that the author writes is just hard for me to digest, and the formatting is not very satisfying to me. I love the finality of like finishing a chapter and seeing the next chapter like ready to go. But the book isn't really formatted like that. There's no like chapter this, chapter that. It's like week 1 and then like a bunch of text. And it's like separated by subheadings and stuff. But then with like all the quotes mixed in there, it's a lot. It's a lot for me to get through. I've been surprised, honestly, by my resistance to this whole thing. And it's showing up in the form of like excuses, you know? It's like, oh, I should really read this chapter. But but I need to do the dishes, or oh, but I don't have, like, I can't focus on that right now because I'm so distracted by so many other things. Maybe later. Surprising to me because I was so excited about starting this program like a week or two ago, and it feels very right. It feels like something that I need to do right now, but I don't know. I've been really resistant to it, so I'm hoping that I can kind of work through that. Also been surprised by the feelings that have been cropping up for me, and the kind of artistic dreams that are sort of being resurrected. I originally started the program hoping that it would help me actualize my desire to be a clothing designer, and while I do think that I need to take excuse me, while I do think that I need to take my I need to take myself seriously as a clothing designer and as an entrepreneur if I'm gonna ever make any money with that endeavor. It is not that hard for me to visualize myself as a successful clothing designer and as the owner of a successful clothing brand, because I do really feel like that's something that I'm capable of doing. But what I'm realizing as the week goes on, I haven't admitted this out loud yet, but the dream that I really want to achieve is to become a painter. That feels silly to say out loud. I've never been like good at painting. I've always been very attracted to it. I've had a lot of artistic dreams, like being a ballerina, being an actress, writing books, writing children's books, being a book illustrator, being a clothing designer. But being a painter, which is like what I think of when I think of like an artist, right? That I haven't thought about doing that like realistically in a long time. This week also has me thinking about how to support my own children in their creative endeavors, and what that looks like in a very, very quickly changing world. So yeah, I think that's all I have for today. I'm gonna do my morning pages and go pick up my oldest from school. All right, today is day 5, I think, of week 1. I had kind of a breakthrough when I was writing my morning pages, and it gave me enough momentum to finally finish reading chapter 1 and to do some of the tasks. I realized while I was doing the morning pages that I've had a lot of anxiety while writing them, like a knot in my stomach and like a tightness in my chest, and it felt very akin to how I would feel when I was younger and I was doing like a timed test or a timed essay or working on an assignment in class that I was very ill prepared for. And I was thinking, like, why does this feel like an assignment that I'm doing and that I'm doing wrong, because I'm so preoccupied with not doing things the right way. I'm also preoccupied with doing things poorly, but I feel like doing things the wrong way and doing them poorly are two separate things. And what I'm most concerned about is just making sure that I'm doing things right. And I feel like I'm not doing this right because I'm not. The morning pages are supposed to be written in the morning, like early in the morning before you start your day and all of that. And I've been writing them like mid-morning, sometimes even in the afternoon. And so that has been causing like kind of like a sense of anxiety because I'm like, I'm not doing this right, but I'm trying to do it. But then also where I'm putting it in my day is like really the only time frame of my day that I have to myself. And so in that time, I also need to shower and get dressed if I haven't done that already. I need to, do some chores that are difficult to do when my kids are awake and they're both around. I need to feed myself if I haven't done that yet. I need to do like social media content for my businesses. I need to sew for my businesses. I need to relax. I need to do all these things in this short amount of time. And so by putting the morning pages into my day where I don't really have to make any changes, because it's like, oh, this is like my free time anyway, let me just do it here, it's taking away time that I have to do other things. So that's also been stressing me out. So starting tomorrow, I'm gonna wake up earlier and I'm just gonna get them done. I need to get comfortable with sacrifice. I need to get comfortable with change because it's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change my life. I'm trying to change my perspective. And that's not going to happen by keeping the same routines and just trying to pile more and more things on top of the free time, like to-do list. So that felt major. And then it was also feeling really emotional while I was writing my pages because I just feel like not only is there a lot of internal resistance to me doing this program and trying to learn all these things I'm trying to learn and really commit to my businesses and all of that, but it also just does not feel very compatible with where I'm at in my motherhood like journey, I guess. Like it doesn't feel like there's enough room for me to be an artist and for me to be a mom. I feel like what I want as an artist and who I need to be as a mom are just not compatible right now. And starting this program has already cracked open something that I am not ready to have cracked open, but it is time. It's time for me to kind of like reconcile the difference between who I am as an artist and who I am as a mom and move forward on the journey of figuring out like how to marry those two. Like what does my life look like with my creative side and, you know, the demands of motherhood, like coexisting peacefully, flourishing together even, you know what I mean? And so that, realizing that and processing that for a little bit this morning is what really motivated me to keep reading and to finish the chapter, to do some of the tasks, because it although they feel like completely different parts of myself right now, they still exist within the same person, and it's important that they're not at odds with each other. It's important that they're not against each other, and it's important that my impression of motherhood is not soiled by resentment, you know, that like, oh, this is what's keeping me from being an artist, or this is what's keeping me from being creative or whatever, because that's not it. And really my like role as a mom and who I am as a mother can only benefit from creative rediscovery and unblocking this part of myself. So anyway, now I'm like, okay, I'm in it. I can prioritize this. I can make it happen. Like it's not impossible. So I wrote out my affirmations. Today I tried working through like the blurts or whatever. That part didn't really like resonate with me because I'm already pretty aware of like my negative self-talk and where it comes from. And there's not anything like, I don't know that there's anything that's specific to my art that, I don't know if there's any negative self-talk that I have that's just specific to my art. It's just like this general like voice telling me that I'm an idiot, you know what I mean? And so like while I was writing out the affirmations and stuff, even like just the sample ones that she provides, I was more focused on like my sloppy handwriting, you know, and misspelling words and like, oh my God, you're such an idiot. Like you can't even spell that right. Things like that. Like missing a letter or adding on an extra letter to a word, or, you know, whatever, normal stuff. But I'm a very self-critical person. And so that's immediately where my mind went. It wasn't like, oh, I'm incapable of being a brilliant and prolific painter or a brilliant and prolific designer. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, wow, your handwriting sucks. But I do know that, you know, I'm pretty aware of where those voices come from. The affirmations I wrote out for myself, I wrote 3 because that's a magical number. I'm allowed to be an artist. I can and will make money from my art, and there is no wrong way. Sorry, I got a call from my doctor. Anyway, so yeah, like I was saying earlier, I am more preoccupied with doing things the right way than doing them well. So there is no wrong way, I think, is going to be the most helpful affirmation of the 3 that I came up with. And then I did 2 of like the time, or 3, I guess, of like the time travel activities or tasks. So I wrote out 3 old creative enemies, which I could only think of 2 initially, my dad and one of my ex-boyfriends. But then I was like, okay, I need to think of at least 3. And so I also remembered an art teacher that I had in 11th grade, which, I mean, it feels kind of silly to be like, oh, these are my enemies, they're monsters, because that's how the author refers to them in the book. Because I love some of these people, right? But I guess, I don't know, for the activity, they can be enemies, that's fine. And then I wrote out a memory that I have of one of my creative enemies. I didn't want to get too deep into the stuff with my dad and that ex-boyfriend, so I chose to write about the art teacher that I had, you know, kind of forgotten about. And I don't have a specific memory of her being like, you know, you suck or anything like that. I think in retrospect, she actually meant well, but at the time, the way that she approached her relationship with me was really, it was just very discouraging and very off-putting. I actually wanted to be an art teacher before I took her class. And after I took her class, I was like, I'm not going to become an art teacher. If there's any chance that I could turn into that, I don't want to be an art teacher, which is kind of, I mean, it's wild. Teachers have such an impact. And I think she meant well, but she held me to, in my opinion at the time, she held me to a way higher standard than a lot of the other students in class. And I think it's because I listened to her, I paid attention, I initially took her seriously, and I had an interest in art. I wouldn't say that I had necessarily like a talent at the time. I've never been like naturally gifted in visual arts. Writing and designing have been more of like my thing. But still, I had an interest, and I think that she kind of took that and tried to become like a tough love kind of teacher, but it just ended up being really, really discouraging. I got a lot of very average and below average grades in her class, and yeah, I just did not enjoy her presence or her approach. Yeah, so I wrote about that. And then there was another task that was like related to the creative enemies, where you're supposed to talk about like, or you're supposed to write like a letter to the editor style thing, basically like defending yourself against this creative enemy. And I almost skipped that one because I was like, this sounds so stupid. But I did it because I remember earlier in the book, the author, she was talking about how the stuff that you have the most resistance to is usually like going to be the most impactful and the thing that like you need the most. So I wrote the letter, and it was silly, it was short, and I just talked about you know, how she's a jerk of an art teacher and holds some of her students to unfair standards and yada yada. And I got a little catty towards the end about her box dyed red hair, and it felt good. It felt good, and not even good like, oh, that's gonna show her, you know, but I feel like it just, I don't know, it recovered something in me, and it helped put that whole influence that she had on me kind of in perspective, because I was a kid at the time, and she was also very young. She was a young art teacher. She was like maybe the age that I am now, maybe like a tiny tad bit older. But anyway, now looking back on that with perspective and allowing myself to be just like kind of childish about it for a little bit, I'm like, okay, so what, you know? So that feels good. Again, that was one of the more shallow creative enemies that I wrote down, so I don't think addressing the other the other ones is going to be that easy. And I'm sure I'll come up with more as time moves and I go through this program, because it seems like that might be kind of like a constant theme throughout. But we'll see. So I still have a couple of tasks left, some more positive ones, like thinking about alternative lives and creative, I forget what phrase she used, but I think creative champions, like people who have encouraged my creativity throughout my life. And so I'll probably do those tomorrow. And then I've got the artist date, which I'm really, I don't want to say I'm nervous for it, but I truly don't know, again, like how I'm going to fit it into my schedule. I do get free time to myself after my kids go to bed, but I want this time to be more intentional and I like during the day. But I also work on the weekends, which is when my boyfriend is not working, so it's kind of a hard to puzzle piece, like him getting a break on the weekend and me getting a break on the weekend, but also I work on the weekend, so he's also, you know, the main caretaker for the kids on the weekend. And anyway, it's not impossible. I'll figure it out, but I do feel some resistance definitely from myself already, like internally, about taking that time. And I don't know how everyone else in my family is going to react to me taking that time for myself, but it's necessary. I also don't know what I'm gonna do. I love going to art museums. I don't really have art museums near me. There's like a small one, maybe like 15-ish minutes away, that I've never been to. That could be cool. And then there's another one about the same size that's further south. It's making me miss the Cameron Art Museum in Wilmington in North Carolina, the town that I used to live in. That art museum was really great and they always had really awesome exhibits. But anyway, I'll figure something out. I think I'm feeling called to go to an art museum, so I just have to figure out which one makes the most sense logistically, and maybe even which one has the most interesting exhibits up right now. So anyway, that's day 5. All right, it's day 6 of week 1. I'm about to head out for my artist date. I feel like it's supposed to be like 2 hours long. I don't know why. If I actually read that in the book or if I'm just making that up. I don't think today's date is going to be 2 hours long. I'm trying to go while my daughter takes her second nap, so I don't have a whole lot of time. I was going to try to go to an art museum, but I don't really have the energy. I spent the morning outside working in our like little side garden area, and I'm pretty worn out, so I'm just going to go to the local fabric shop and maybe go to the art store too. Okay, I'm back. I was gone for 2 hours, which is really nice. I'm glad that I was able to take all of that time for myself. I thought about vlogging some of it, like while I was at the fabric store and the art store, but I have never done that in public before, so I felt kind of embarrassed and apprehensive, and I used the excuse that the artist date is supposed to be like a personal thing. So I went to the used fabric store in my town, and I picked up a physical copy of The Artist's Way from someone that volunteers there. I had connected with them through one of the Buy Nothing groups that I'm in on Facebook, so that's great. I have a physical copy now that I'm really excited about. And then I bought some fabric, I bought some notions, and then I went to the art store that's just a little bit over in like the next shopping center, and I bought a massive canvas. And I bought a new tube of paint that was speaking to me, and a palette knife, a palette, and like another palette knife that's a little bit wider. And I had kind of an emotional moment while I was at the art store, like picking this stuff out, because I shared earlier in the week that I want to be a painter. Like that's kind of where this whole journey has like taken me so far. And that's a skill that like I haven't worked on or tapped into in a really, really, really long time. And it just felt like, I don't know, it kind of felt like, oh my gosh, like finally, like I'm doing this. And it was really nice. And I just let that like feeling and that sort of like emotional release be like, I guess like a sort of confirmation that I'm doing the right thing and that I'm going in the right direction and pursuing the right artistic practice. And I'm still going to make clothes and stuff, obviously, but I don't think that I'm as blocked in that area of my life as I am in this area. So I'm excited to work on it. I have an idea for the painting already, and I don't know that I'll get to work on it today because I do need to take care of my children. But maybe I'll get a free moment to like sketch it out, or maybe I can work on it when they're asleep. I don't really like painting when it's dark though. I prefer to paint outside during the daytime, so we'll see. And then I got a beer, which I love doing. I got a beer, I read a book at the bar, and then I went and picked up some groceries, and now I'm home. So I've got to go kind of switch off with my partner so that he can have his time to himself. But it was a good day. I'm really excited about how today ended up turning out, because I was really apprehensive about where the artist state would fit and what that would look like, and if I would feel bad for taking that time like away from my kids and from my family. But I feel really rejuvenated, so I'm glad that I made it happen. Okay, it's day 1 of week 2, but I didn't do anything related to the Artist's Way yesterday, so I'm wrapping up week 1 now before I do the reading for week 2. I finished up the tasks for week 1. I did the check-in, and I got my physical copy, which feels really good. So I'm excited to get in here and make notes and highlight and everything. And the formatting makes a lot more sense with the physical copy than it did on the PDF. So I'm happy that I like went and found a physical copy for myself. So for this week, the tasks, I wrote out my 3 creative champions today. It was my mom, my Nina, a childhood friend, and then I had a couple bonus ones talking about other friends that I have that I met in early adulthood and my current partner. But I couldn't think of anyone that I would consider a creative champion from like earlier in my life. I never had like a super influential ballet teacher or art teacher, or like, you know, older sibling or anyone that was particularly encouraging. So I ended up writing my thank you letter and my memory about my mom, because she truly has always been very encouraging when it comes to my artistic endeavors and stuff. And I think this week, you know, so earlier in the week I had talked about and thought about 3 creative enemies. My dad was one of them, and then my mom's one of the champions. And I thought that was interesting because I've always kind of held my parents in the same light when it came to how they have supported me creatively. Earlier in my life, they were very supportive and very encouraging. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. If you want to be an actress, be an actress, you know. And they backed up that encouragement with, you know, trying to get me into art camps and ballet lessons. And they've always been supportive, not just in their words, but also in their actions. But at some point, that support became conditional, and it went from like, you can do whatever you want, to, okay, that's great, but what's your backup plan, to, well, that's not realistic, what are you actually going to do? And I've always felt like they were on the same level when it came to that like progression. But when I was reflecting on it, I do feel like my mom has been more I don't want to say more supportive, but you know, I guess I'll say more supportive. And that could just be because she was around more than my dad was. He was in the military when I was growing up, so there are large chunks of time throughout my childhood and like teenage years that he was absent because of deployments, or he was away for training for 6 to 8 weeks at a time, or, you know, he was gone on business trips and things like that. So my mom was just more present than he was, and you know, she's the one who went with me to art shows and things like that. So anyway, I wrote my, you know, positive memory about her, and I also wrote her a thank you letter for her encouragement. And then the imaginary lives task I had a good time with. I didn't think about what I was going to say. I just like wrote it out as it, you know, as it came to me. And my 5 imaginary like alternative lives are as an actress, a gardener / florist, an English teacher, a rich wife, and a concert pianist. I was surprised after I wrote all of these out that ballerina didn't come up, because I had wanted to do that for a long time. But I think just knowing how hard it is, like now as an adult, knowing how hard, not that any of these other professions wouldn't also be hard in their own ways, but yeah, it was just, I thought that was an interesting thing. Like, okay, I've like fully grown out of that daydream, basically. And then I did the check-in. I did my morning pages 5 out of the 7 days, but I didn't write them first thing in the morning, and I didn't always get to 3 pages. I think the morning pages is something that's a practice that's just gonna have to grow on me, because I have been pretty resistant to it this week, which I talked a lot about. And I don't feel that resistance anymore, but I just have to figure out how to like fit it into my day-to-day life, I guess. And then I did do my artist date. I filled y'all in on that. And I'm really happy that I did. I haven't started painting on the canvas yet, but I know exactly what I want to paint. And I'm just really proud of myself for going out and taking the time and spending money on myself, and yeah, just going with my gut and doing what I wanted to do. So I'm happy with how this first week turned out. I definitely am feeling less critical about, like less self-critical, you know. I think that was a lot of what was bothering me this first week, was like I just felt like I wasn't doing things the right way. But I don't feel like that anymore. I feel motivated and kind of excited going into this week. But it's also sort of setting in like how long of a program this is, because at the start of it, 12 weeks didn't seem like that long. And now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, this is like, you know, the 12 weeks are going to pass anyway, right? So it feels good to be putting my time to good use and self-development. But I don't know, I had the thought this morning, like, damn, 12 weeks is a long time. Or at least it feels like it right now. So anyway, I need to go do mom stuff and house stuff, but I'll be back to check in after I get the reading done for week 2, but that'll be in next week's video.